Hello everyone, and welcome to Soul GPS, where we learn to trust our intuition again to create the life that we truly desire. And today I wanted to talk a little bit more about trauma bond, what it is, what we feel, what are the most common experiences, why we feel this way, and what we can do about it. As I'm sure you know, watching this video, trauma bond is something that seems to just drag on and on and on after leaving a narcissist, whether it is a relationship that's romantic or whether it's a family member. It takes a while. Those cords, they go really deep, and so therefore it is going to take some time before we're able to free ourselves from it. What happens and what it usually feels is I think that it's the most intense at the very beginning. Usually shortly after we made the decision to split up and go our own way, which if that is the case and if that's what you have done, congratulations, you should feel really, really proud of yourself. Also, you need to prepare. You need to know that in the first weeks, even months, it is going to be really, really hard. And yeah, we just need to be honest with ourselves, right? It is going to be very difficult. And what adds to this difficulty is the fact that we may feel isolated because, no one else really gets this. You may want to talk to a friend, share with a family member, and they're just going to look at you kind of like, yeah, well, you're going to get over it. Don't worry. Just go out a few times, read a book, watch some comedy, and you're going to be better. Which, by the way, watching comedy is definitely a great thing to do in order to switch the brain from the really state of mulling over the relationship, thinking about it all the time, and towards a more positive outlook. So in this case, what you would be doing is also changing brain chemistry. And we're going to talk about all of this in this little segment. So first of all, I want to talk about how does it feel, to give you some validation. It is an absolutely heart-squeezing, gut-wrenching, depressing feeling. It is probably the most awful things we experience. I remember during the first few days, I was operating in an absolute fog. It was really difficult for me too, because I was in the process of moving from the United States to Europe temporarily, which I'm about to move again. So I've been kind of on the run in the last few months, to be honest. And I thought, at first I thought this was going to be a beautiful trip around the world, but it feels more like being on the run. Because as you know, no matter where you go in life, no matter where you are, these feelings are going to go with you. So I was operating in a fog, and I had to sell my car, I had to sell all my furniture, I had to pack up. And on top of it, I experienced a double betrayal in a span of a few days, less than a week. First came from my narcissist relationship, which was actually even more like a psychopathic. He checked for all the cluster Bs. Looking back in retrospect, as I was doing my education, there were elements of course, narcissistic, which runs through all of them, borderline, as well as severe psychopathic and sociopathic. But he was so good at mirroring me. He was so good at finding out what it is that I wanted out of life and acting as if we were made out of the same stardust, as if we had the same aspirations and the same dreams, to make me feel like I really did meet my soulmate. And he was really good because I was in the process of really restarting my life, and I had a lot of plans, a lot of things that I knew I was not going to give up, but he made me, change my plans to accommodate. Anyway, this may have happened to you as well. This may have happened to you too, where they're so good at making us forget our agenda, our plans, our dreams, and slowly give all of our attention to them and to their agenda and their dreams. So I ended up running his company, pretty much concerned about his own well-being, constantly looking for recipes to aid his stomach pains. And, I didn't have any time to do what I wanted. So what they do is they make us feel like they're really it, they're really the second half that we've been searching for. And so once that cord breaks, once that connection breaks, and you're left with feeling like you've lost it all. And now what? You've invested so much of yourself into this, and now you're left with nothing. That's what it feels like. You're left with nothing. Not only are you left with nothing with respect to the dream and the plans that you have had, but also your own self. Because what they do in the process of really getting into you, getting inside of you, is they at first build you up and make you feel like you're at the center of the world, like you're the most important person, you know, the most special thing. You two are the most special thing. But also once the devaluation begins, they begin to undermine the very things that they have, quote unquote, fallen in love with in the early stages of the relationship. So not only have you lost them, you've also lost a big part of yourself. So this feeling it's really difficult to explain. It's really difficult to explain to anyone who hasn't been in this, who hasn't been through this. And it just feels absolutely devastating. So I don't know how I managed to get it all done, but I did with the help of a friend. But I moved through the days it was a fog, but it was also like moving through plasma. You know, it was kind of like life was happening, but I wasn't really part of life. It was sort of happening in the background, if that makes sense. So you're feeling empty inside. You may not know who you truly are, and that is all very normal. That is all part of the symptom, part of the symptom of the trauma bond, and also part of the remains. It's sort of the ashes left from what has burned. The good news is that once it all got leveled, you have now the ability to rebuild yourself and start over. So I know that it doesn't feel right now like that, even like it's good news. It feels probably like it's terrible, but trust me, with time you're going to get better. So the intrusive thoughts, that is a real big deal. That can haunt us for a very long time, because again, what they have done is through something called transinduction and hypnosis, they have managed to put us in a state in which reality gets disrupted, and it usually happens through an intense sensory overload. So for instance, there may be candles burning, they might make dinner, they might make something really special, that you're having an intense experience. Of course, sex helps with that. So your body is flooded with oxytocin, but because you are also aware of the fact that this person can be unpredictable, and your intuition most likely senses that, even if you yet haven't had an episode of devaluation that feels pretty obvious, what happens is you have the two mixing together, so you're getting this cocktail of oxytocin and cortisol firing at the same time. You may have heard that in the pickup community, they say that if you want a girl to fall in love with you, take her on a roller coaster ride, right? So there is this sort of like you're in this sense of like there's a danger, but at the same time you have safety. So the oppressor, the abuser, is very skilled at creating both a threatening situation, which fires your limbic brain, and at the same time soothing it, which fires your heart and your oxytocin, dopamine receptors. The dopamine, by the way, is what I call more chemical. So once you get a taste of something that you like, and it opens up your pleasure, right? You get the pleasure gets going. You're feeling really good. The dopamine is a survival mechanism of wanting to continue repeating the pleasurable state. So it, of course, it ties really well with reproduction. It ties with food. It ties with just being in a company of that person, because, you know, we're social creatures. And it's natural for us to want to spend time with other people, especially the people who understand us. And the narcissist or psychopath is really, really good at pretending. This is all game. Remember this, that pretending that they understand and they get who we are. So we open up, right? We naturally open our hearts and we seek that connection. And it gets that much more devastating because, number one, we have most likely confessed all the times where we haven't had a good connection with another person, and they have done it too, to the narcissist. So we have this bonding that no one understands us. We felt lonely most of our lives, which is usually the main target of a narcissist psychopath, is the person who they can spot us in a room, is a person who just feels a little bit like out of place, maybe head down, maybe a little bit sad. They can pick it up. They can pick up those cues and they beeline for that person. And it's a person who's usually very empathic, likes to listen to other people, is concerned with the well-being of others. So these are the qualities that later get really exploited. So you have bonded over this sense of loneliness, and you now feel like you have found the person who really gets you. So it gets that much worse, because once they leave, or once you leave, once the mask slips and you see them for who they are, it gets that much worse, because not only did you open up and trust in that person, but also now they have taken away not only the oils, the soothing balm on your wound, but also reopened all those wounds. So part of the trauma bond recovery is going to be going back into the past and finding out where did this dynamic begin. So the intrusive thoughts can last a while. You may find yourself doing something and then pop, you see their eyes, or you hear their voice, or you remember something positive that they have done. And our brain, remember, is wired in a way that it's very good at deleting traumatic and negative events and only remembering the best part. It's a survival mechanism. So you're going to have to be very patient with yourself and continually remind yourself who that person was, and write it down, and look at that list very often. Why did you leave? Maybe even record yourself while you're at your worst, while you're crying, while you're down in the dumps. When the trauma bond gets very intense, fire up your phone and record yourself crying and saying all these things that they have done to you. This may come handy later on. So once you get to the point where there's less and less of those intrusive episodes, and when they come, you'll be able to just brush it off and say, fuck this. I am not going to give this person an ounce of my attention. So yeah, it gets to a point. For me, it took about 2 months to start to gain my solid footing. Unfortunately, I got hoovered several times during that transition from month 2 to month 4, and I was stupid enough to read one of the emails. After that, I would just delete them when they were coming. I did not read them. And I had my narcissist was blocked on everything right away, but I did not really know how to block the emails. So the emails kept coming. But whenever I would see their name pop up, I would be like, oh no, again. So between that 2 and 4 months, it was a bit of a roller coaster. I would have spell of 2, 3, 4 great days, and then 2, 3, 4 bad days when I needed to really read that list, where I needed to really educate myself, go back to reading. There's a great book that I really recommend, helped me a lot, Sandra L. Brown, Women Who Love Psychopaths. Just phenomenal book. Even if you don't think that the person that you've been with was a psychopath, that advanced of a level, it's all pretty much very similar, same dynamic, the same tricks that they use, and so on. Even if you're a male, I recommend this book. So, and of course, Psychopath Free by Jackson McKenzie. There's a lot of great literature. But so it's very difficult during that time to concentrate on anything, to get sleep, to move, to get out of bed. But I urge you, as I mentioned in my other video, to try to pattern interrupt. And when you feel really tired, but you know you did have some sleep, but you still don't feel like doing anything, break it up. go for a walk, try something different, try to get back into reality, which can be difficult because the sense of reality that we got from by being with a narcissist was this ideal, unreal fantasy / reality, was a semi-reality, was like a sub-reality. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get back into the now and the here through mindfulness, which is something I recommend. In the later part of this video, we're going to go through the steps, but it's all really the process of coming back to now and to reality. So why do we feel this way? What is the reason? Because here's what I'm going to tell you that's really interesting. A person who hasn't been primed for narcissistic abuse most likely is never going to bite the hook. They're going to look at that person, you know, who's making their advances, is doing all of their sweet talking and, you know, telling them how great they are. And they're just going to like brush it off and say, well, I know I'm great. You know, I know I have self-worth. I don't need you to flatter me. So, but for us, it's because we lacked something. There's an empty bucket inside of us. There's something missing that makes us susceptible to those kinds of people and to those kinds of advances. Even, I gotta tell you, when I met my narcissist, I was 2 months away from sailing off on the journey of my dreams. And I thought, you know, nothing can sway me. And in fact, there was somebody who was trying to get into my life during that time that I had to be very firm with, saying, listen, I cannot have a relationship. I cannot get into anything right now because I'm leaving. Because I have decided to take a year to find myself, to do my writing, you know, to do my Eat, Pray, Love journey, essentially, something I've wanted to do for 15 years. And so I was really good at keeping everything. It was like everything under control. And I was feeling really proud of myself. I'm like, yes, you know, I've got this. And then this person shows up. And it was funny because at first when they were messaging me and, you know, he was telling me things like asking me if I was single, like before we even met, I was thinking, this is just high school, you know, this was kind of funny. But after walking away from that message, there was a part of me that felt kind of flattered by it, right? Like, well, that's nice, you know, to get this attention. And this person was really interesting to me. You know, he had a lot of interest in things that I was interested in and really had a way of presenting himself as extremely smart. He was the CEO of a company and just was really interested in advanced physics, which is what I'm interested in, and philosophy, spirituality, nature, you know, all these things. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. Well, maybe the universe is sending me this person to like, you know, maybe this is the last little test to see, maybe I'm not supposed to leave the United States. Maybe I'm supposed to stay and maybe my life really truly is in California. So I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot and see where it leads. And boy, oh boy, boy, oh boy. Okay, so the origin, being primed for this in childhood. So looking back, as I was going through my detaching period of time, my time of getting rid of the intrusive thoughts and trying to regain control, trying to find myself again, I was reading a lot. It really helped me to have a book all the time in bed while I was laying down, listening to videos, which is why I'm doing these videos now, is because these videos help me so much that I want to now give back and maybe hopefully help someone else who's going through this. And it was really difficult to remember the difficult parts. I was fascinated observing my own mind, how I would remember the kisses, the hugs, the future faking, right? Them telling me how we're going to get married and have children and live in this little house in the mountain and like do all these stuff, right? And it all sounded amazing. So it was these thoughts were coming back. So I needed to constantly battle my brain. Constantly. It was exhausting. Not only was I exhausted because of the trauma bond, but I was doubly exhausted by having to battle my own brain. So it was really difficult to remember. The other thing that happened was I started to journal and look back at my own childhood. And ironically, I was at home. So I went back home. The original plan was to stay here for a couple of months. to just kind of repack, do Christmas with my family, and then leave. I was going to go to Asia. But I was in such state that I knew I needed at least 4 or 5 months to recover, especially as I enrolled with a coach, and I found out that, what it's going to take for me to really get out of this and get my life back on course, which at that point I did not even know whether I wanted to travel. I did not know what I wanted to write. I didn't know anything. I was just existing. I was just moving from day one to day two. But I started to look back. The feelings that I was feeling were taking me back into my childhood. And I started to remember 2 things in particular. Number 1 was parental neglect, especially on my dad's side, and splitting, which is something that occurred on my mom's side. And splitting is when a parent takes a child and they don't accept them 100% for who they are, but they only reward the good, and then they discard the bad. So my parents were arguing a lot all the time. I grew up in a very violent environment when every night I was adrenalized. So I would go to sleep and usually woken up around 8 or 9 because of them arguing. And it was literally every single night. So, which later actually tied that into my insomnia, that I would just as I was falling asleep, I would be jerking back up and awake. And I did not know what that was for the longest time. And then I tied it to that because in my childhood, for years, just as I was falling asleep, I would then be woken up by them arguing. So I lived in an adrenalized state most of my life. And then when I went to school, I would attract people who were similar to my sister, who is a narcissist, very severe at this point, who basically would constantly bully me. So I thought that that's just the way it was. Adrenaline was part of life, and argument was just how people lived. And, I would constantly have to fight for my value, for doing things for other people in order to be liked. Because no matter what I did at home, I was never fully 100% liked for who I was. So that was the legacy that I brought into my relationship. So then looking through everything, I was in a relationship for 9 years with a person who was severely psychologically disordered and who used a lot of techniques that cults use in order to manipulate. So I was primed for this. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you're going through this, not saying that this is what happened to you, but it's very likely that these emotions are not new. And it's that cycle of reward and punishment. And it's a cortisol oxytocin dynamic. So you're feeling threatened, and yet you're running to the savior, who was your parent back because there's no other choice. Now it is your narcissist relationship, right? So they're at the same time that they're putting you down, at the same time that they're jabbing you with comments, maybe being violent, maybe cheating on you. It's many forms of abuse. I made a series of videos on different kinds of abuse that you can check out if you'd like to, but you get the idea, right? You understand that you've been abused, right? You understand that you've gone through absolute nightmare, right? I mean, you must be, because you're watching this. So having gone through this brainwashing cycle, know yourself again, that this is the result of the kind, cruel oxytocin, cortisol, chemical war going on inside of your mind, which then trickle down into infecting your mind and your thoughts with cognitive dissonance, where you're trying to, at the same time, hold the positive image of the narcissist in your head, and at the same time see them for who they are. This is tremendously disturbing to the mind. It's literally mind fuck, as many have called it, and that's exactly what it is. So why else do you feel this way? It's because you opened up. You trusted somebody who had promised you that they're going to be there for you. So you did what naturally comes to people like us, who have very high empathy traits. We open up and we want to help. They probably played the victim hero card, telling you how, other people have hurt them in the past. How they have been victimized by the world, how everybody was against them. So your natural instincts of wanting to help were turned towards them instead of towards us. Instead of taking our empathy and turning it towards us, we put it out to others. I mean, this is the lesson. This is the core of the lesson here, is we need to take what we have given them and learn to give it to ourselves. Next is you felt a deep sense of betrayal, because how could this happen to someone after giving all of ourselves? You know, it's like we think that love conquers all. We think that love can heal, but no, it cannot. Love conquers all only in healthy relationships, which you'll have one, by the way. Well, you'll have one once you get on the other side of this. But it will not happen with a toxic person, because they will just take from you. They will constantly take any advantage that they can to suck you dry, take all of your supply, everything and anything you can offer, and then run and at the end discard you like a piece of garbage. This is what they do. And finally, why did we feel like this? It's cultural conditioning. I mean, all it takes for us is to turn on the TV. I stopped watching TV 8-9 years ago now, because it's just the program that it puts in our heads, constantly devaluing us. You know, that you look at all these celebrities who are flaunting their figures, who are flaunting their money, who are flaunting the lifestyle that is, it's like Facebook on steroids, right? Because on Facebook, on social media, we get the same kind of dynamic going on, where we look at everything people post, which is usually their ideal version of their reality, and then we feel terrible and shitty about our own. And now when you turn on TV, it gets even worse, right? It gets even worse. Not to mention the whole political thing, where it's all basically one big narcissistic abuse, where now countries are feeling entitled to go to other countries and take resources from them. I mean, this is the same thing, same dynamic on a larger scale. So we're primed by watching TV, because, you know, our culture regards narcissistic behavior as superior. All you need to do is, you know, think of the last US elections to really see how far we've come on this matter. And mind control is also an all-time high, and people are being valued for what they have, not for who they are. So I highly recommend you look into mind control and look into transinduction, hypnosis, and all that, because it is all being used against you. We need to be very, very on alert all the time in order to live the life that we want, because there are people, there are messages that are surrounding us from every side, from every direction, to make us sway in the direction that they want. So we follow their agenda, not our own. So why else? There's an actual physiological reason. Your amygdala got hijacked. When I was telling you about how I was adrenalized as a child, well, what it did is it actually damaged my brain. And most likely your brain has gone through damage as well. That's the bad news. The good news is it can be repaired, and it only takes about 6 months if you put a lot of work into it, meaning you meditate, you become mindful, you take steps towards self-care and so on. Now you're going to do it gradually, because I mean, once in the days after you have just broken up with the narcissist, in meditation is like, forget it, right? I mean, you can hardly concentrate on thinking about what you need to do during that day. I can't even imagine people who have to go to work, you know, who are going through this. That must be extremely difficult. So let's look at what it is that we can do now. Okay, so step number 1 is, and I mentioned this before, and it's in the title of this video, is truth. This truth will set you free. Remembering what happened to you, remembering that the person who did this to you does not deserve an ounce of your attention. They are going to try to get back into your life. So prepare for this. But know this, is that they're only going to hurt you more. So don't give in to this temptation. If you do, and if you did, forgive yourself. We all do this. We all make mistakes. But know that that person does not give a shit about you. They do not care about how you feel. They do not care about what you think. If they did, they wouldn't have done what they have done, right? And probably this wasn't only one time, but it was several times. So know this, remember this truth. They do not appreciate who you are. They do not appreciate the gifts that you bring. All they're thinking about is what's in it for them. And really it ends right then. And also through the process of devaluing you, one of the things that they do is they make you feel like you can never do enough. So for instance, you made dinner for them that they had said they loved it, but the second time it doesn't taste as good anymore. Or you don't look as good in that dress. Like, have you put on weight? What happened? So you end up running in circles, constantly trying to do things to appease the narcissist, and it's a battle you'll never win. And this is what you're also feeling right now, is the result of that, because your sense of self-value, probably which was damaged to begin with, now is even more damaged. So now you feel even uglier, stupider, more confused, more chaotic. Your sense of self-worth is at all-time low. But remember, all this is relative. And if it could have been damaged so quickly by a person that's sick, that means it wasn't really solid to begin with. Now you have the opportunity to really build your self-worth that no one and nothing will ever be able to shake and take away from you. Take my word for it. It's exactly what happens. I know it feels like the worst thing ever, but it's really a blessing in disguise. So you will come out of this stronger than ever. Just remember the truth. It will really set you free. Step number 2 is go no contact. So make sure you put as much distance between you and the narcissist as you can. If you're sharing custody, if you have to see them, try to be as unemotional as you can. Don't give them any information, especially no confidential information about yourself. Do not show them that you're excited, even that you're moving through this and life is good now. Do not give them any emotion, because they're going to try to devalue it and demean you. That's just giving them an opportunity to basically get in and do some more damage. Because they know your vulnerabilities. So they're going to be very quick on their toes to, if they sense that you're doing well, to try to undermine that. So don't give them anything, nothing, zero, null, zilch, nothing, nada, nothing. Next thing is go to treatment. If you need to, if things are really difficult, I highly recommend finding a good therapist. I'm hearing out there online that there are a lot of therapists who can actually do more damage if they're not familiar with narcissistic abuse. So be mindful about that when you're researching who you are talking to. I personally worked with a coach. I worked with Meredith Miller from Inner Integration. She is fabulous, and within several sessions, 2-3 sessions, I was back on my feet and I was starting to feel my power. So I would highly recommend work with a coach. I myself am starting to offer services. I'll put information down below on how you can contact me if you need help. I'm trying to keep some options affordable, because I know that it can be really hard, but having the validation from someone who has gone through it can slingshot you forward like nothing else. If you cannot, if you do not have a way of working with someone one-on-one, I recommend support groups. Dana Morningstar from Thrive After Abuse, she's fabulous when it comes to gathering people together. She has thousands of people, tens of thousands of people right now in her groups. So check those out. It can feel a little bit like you're one fish in a big pond, and sometimes you won't be able to get too much attention because there's just so many people. But do it anyway, because it's going to make you feel like you're part of a community, and who knows, the right person might just read your message and respond to you. So do that. Next one is journal. Externalize your thoughts, your fears, your feelings. Once you put them out there, and you can do it through writing, or you can do it through just talking to a mirror or recording yourself. I used to go on long walks and record myself on just like there's an app on the iPhone called the Recorder, and I would take walks and just talk and just vent and vent and vent. And I stopped doing that after a couple of months. I did not have a need to do it anymore, but it helped me so much. And now I can go back and see where I came from because I have it all recorded. And man, it was a bumpy road. It was a really bumpy road. Next thing is rest. So make sure you give yourself the time you need for sleeping. Because you may have some trouble sleeping, try to block off 10 hours for sleep every night. If you can, talk to your employer and ask them to, maybe give you 2 hours in the morning off, rather than taking a full week off. Maybe take like 2 hours every morning to start work a little bit later for a week, just so you can catch up on some sleep. Be creative with that. Get whatever you need to. If you do have trouble falling asleep, one thing I would really recommend, since this is something I've struggled for years, is I would recommend try to not worry that you cannot sleep. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but because we tend to want to worry and think, shit, I should be already asleep, I have so much work to do. Say, it's okay. If I don't get enough sleep, I'll get by. Remember, you've gotten by before, so just don't worry about it. Something I started doing recently that I can recommend is there's a wonderful meditation, Anxieties and Sleep Meditation by Michael Sealey on YouTube. He has the most soothing voice. The music is wonderful. It feels like you're rocking, like you're a baby being rocked. And he has this wonderful visualization of undoing anxiety, which is something, as I mentioned, I struggled most of my life. So you may want to try that. Once I fall asleep listening to this, I get the best sleep, uninterrupted, and I wake up just like a newborn person. So definitely try that. Try solfeggio, try binaural beats, just to get your brain to a state of relaxation so the cortisol doesn't eat away at it. Next thing is really focus on self-care. Focus on you. Book a massage. If you can, book one right after you finish watching this video. I promise you, you're going to feel so much better. This can undo a few days worth of damage due to stress. Just one session. If it's something you can afford, do it. Maybe you have a friend who does massage. Maybe you do a trade. I highly recommend it. If you have a place where you can go and do some sauna and cold plunge, maybe at a gym or something, I would also recommend something like that. Just be with yourself, hug yourself often, love yourself, talk to your inner child. John Bradshaw, great resource for inner child healing. I did all of his homecoming series. It was 10 videos on YouTube. Changed my life. And next thing I wanted to talk about is your brain care. So as I was mentioning earlier, the cortisol really damages our brain. So one of the first things I did is I got myself omega-3s. I got myself vitamin E, which is an antioxidant for fat. So as you know, our brain is made out of a lot of course, water, carbs, and a lot of fat. So during stress, our fat can oxidize, and vitamin E can help repair that oxidization. So I started taking vitamin E and also B complex. So all of these I recommend. And because I was in a winter time here in Europe, there was no sunshine. So I also started taking vitamin D3 to help me with serotonin. I'm actually not supposed to recommend because I'm not a physician, but I'm just letting you know what I did and it helped me. So one quick note on alcohol I want to mention. So in the first 2-3 weeks, I couldn't even think of doing that, of drinking anything, even though I kind of wanted to. I wanted to get my mind off of it. Later on, I would watch a movie with a friend back when I was still back in California, and I remember we watched Eat, Pray, Love, and in the movie, the main character pulls out a bottle of wine and asks one of the people in the movie was in Italy, do you know what this is? I'll teach you a new word, right, in English. And the person says, no, I don't know. She's like, therapy, pointing at a bottle of wine. So we joked that this was our therapy. So I did drink a little bit, like a glass, like I said, to watch a movie to help me fall asleep. But the next day I felt even worse. So I would say just use with caution. The other thing with alcohol is that it can damage your brain. So now that I know what it does, I stopped drinking completely. But that's not to say that I will never will. But enjoy a glass of wine or something. But because of your body trying to heal and going through so much, I would err on the side of caution. But again, if you feel like having a drink is the one thing that can take you over the edge in the moment, then fine, have it. But make sure that next day you eat well, you drink lots of water, you hydrate, so you don't suffer for it and have to pay for that later. And finally, set small goals for yourself. This is to get your dopamine firing properly again. Set small goals for yourself and accomplish them. So for instance, you can write down a to-do list for the day and just say 3 things, right? journal for 10 minutes, watch a video on narcissistic abuse, and say, go on a 20-minute walk. These are all, and watch a funny movie. Yeah, you should put that on your list. And those are all not that difficult to accomplish, but just the act of checking off those things off your list is going to make you feel so much better. Like, yes, I got it done, you know, like you're moving forward. So this fires dopamine, the more chemical, and motivates us to then do it again the next day. And it sets up a nice ritual for ourselves to slowly begin to heal and come out. So that's it for today. I hope that this video helped you. There's so much more I could share, but I'm trying to keep this video short. Still, this is 40 minutes already, so hopefully I didn't lose you in the process. And if you like this video, please subscribe. Give me a like to let me know that this is helpful. Leave a comment if you have any ideas with better ideas of how to overcome this really difficult period that follows a breakup with a narcissist or a psychopath. So yeah, let's engage in a conversation. I have a list of over 100 topics that I want to cover in my videos. It's going to take me some time to get through all of them, but there are all these little nuances I have discovered along the way that I want to share with you to hopefully help you get through this. And get through this, you can, and you will, and you're going to come out stronger and clearer on the other side than ever. You're basically diving under all of this abuse, and as you are moving through this, what seems like a hellish experience, keep going. All of this will dissolve, and you're going to get to know yourself better than ever, and you're going to rebuild yourself the way you want to, and you'll be amazed at how much you'll be able to accomplish once you're no longer being pulled by anxiety, by low self-esteem, by low sense of self-worth. Once you work all of these things out, doing anything else in your life will be easy, whether it's losing weight, whether it is moving forward in your career, whether it is writing a book, or whatever it is that you want to do. It's going to be so much easier because you will not have that heavy weight on you anymore. This is your chance. This is your opportunity. I'm here to cheer you on, and hopefully this helped you. I'm sending you lots of greetings from Poland, and I will be soon seeing you hopefully again. Take care. All the best to you. Bye-bye.